Okay, so I've seen now episodes 5 and 6 of the Elf show. I wanted to do a video on episode 5 a lot sooner, but finishing Kuro got in the way of that. And since episode 6 finishes what episode 5 set up, I feel like it works really well to talk about them together. I don't know if that's how I'll do it going forward, if I'll wait like a couple weeks, or if I'll just like watch an episode a little bit later to include Horizons in there. I'm not a hundo, but we'll figure it out. We'll see how it goes. We'll go as we go. But episode 5 essentially starts with Frieren and Fern coming across a kind of monster that essentially like reads your memories to take the form of someone that you love. And I don't remember exactly what it does. I don't remember if it like full on kills people or if it just kind of like drains their energy or their essence. But they're going up there and Freyren's like, Fern, this is what it's gonna do. Be very, very careful. And Fern's like, I'm gonna be fine. I've killed monsters with no problems. Like, yeah, this is gonna take the form of someone you love. Be ready for that. Like when you see them, no, it's not them. She's like, I'm not going to hesitate. It's no problem. But then she sees Heiter's ghost and she hesitates. And she's even thinking to herself, like, you know, on his deathbed, he was telling me that, you know, if I'm a good girl, I'll get to see him again. And at the end of this journey, I am going to get to see him again. And him coming here and it's like seeing the ghost and the ghost even saying like, you've been such a good girl. You've done everything that I told you. You're doing everything that Frieren was telling you to do. I wanted to go ahead and see. She's like, son of a bitch. He's reading my memories. I know this is a phantom. I know this is a monster. But I can't shoot it. I said I was going to, but I can't. And then from Freyren's perspective, she sees a ghost of Himmel, who I don't remember exactly what, I think the ghost even says like, yeah, go ahead and shoot me because that's what Himmel would say. And Freyren's thinking to herself like, you know, when I did this, okay, so it's been about 28 years since Himmel died, and that was 50 years after the adventure, which was a 10-year adventure. So that would be about 88 years ago, if my math is correct. Like, you know, almost 90 years ago when I started my adventure, it took the form of my master. And now it's taking the form of Himmel. You know, it was only a mere 10 years, but that mere 10 years changed me a lot. But then she blasts, which I really like. You know, she does have kind of that emotional moment of realizing, like, how much she changed. Like, that she does really care about this dude, but still blasts him. And it kind of makes Fern go like, oh, right. And then sees the thing as a monster, not just as Heiter. And then she blasts it and they move on to the next town. Which I believe that's when they... Yeah, so on their way, they find a dragon and a dragon's nest. And there's a grimoire in there. And Freyren's like, I want it. I'm pretty sure it's going to have a spell that lets you see through objects and like clothing and shit. And Fern's like, do we have to? Yes, we have to. It's a unique spell. And if it's a unique spell, I want it. Okay, but do we have to fight a dragon? So what they do is, they play tag with the dragon. You know, blast it with magic. Well, that didn't work. Essentially run away till it unaggroes, rinse and repeat. Or I think Freyren's like, all right, that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to play tag with the dragon until we kill it. And Fern's like, nope, I'm not doing that. Fuck that shit. There's a scene in episode 6 where she brings that up and Fern literally just like hugs a tree and Freyren's trying to pull her from the tree like, I'm not doing that. That was spooky. They go into the town and they meet Stark, who is Eisen's former apprentice. Now, he is not a dwarf. He's about, I think he's maybe a little bit taller than Fern. He has a big-ass axe. And in this town where he's been living for about 3 years, he is seen as a great hero. Because the dragon was attacking, and he like went in front of the dragon, he stood tall, the dragon saw him, and fucked off, and everyone's like, yeah, he's so badass! He defeated the dragon! The dragon's now scared to attack because of us! And when Stark tells Frieren and Fern about it, he's like, yeah, I was terrified, I was shaking, I couldn't move. I didn't beat the dragon. I didn't intimidate the dragon. I just got lucky. And the people now revere me as a hero, and they take care of me, and they're nice to me. So I don't want to leave because this is nice. I also don't want to leave because I don't want to leave them without someone to protect them. But I'm terrified of monsters. And Fern's just like, you're a fucking coward. You're pathetic. You suck. I love Fern. I really enjoy, like I said, because like her voice acting, it's always so understated. And I mean that in a good way, not where it's like, it's so monotone, it's so boring. No, it's like there's just so much like venom and bitterness that she can convey while still not like being an overt asshole, you know? I think it's fantastic. But like at the end of the, essentially Frieren's like, all right, this is what we need. I need you to distract the dragon for about 30 seconds. If you can do that, Stark, we can kill it. Can you do that? He's like, I really don't want to. Like, well, we know Eisen. Well, I don't want to go back and work with Eisen, but I don't know what the fuck I want. And then in the middle of the night, Fern sees him training. And he's like fucking tearing fissures into a mountain with his axe. You're like, oh, he's a bad dude. So the start of episode 6, so that's where episode 5 leaves off. Episode 6, and the two of them have a conversation about fear and Stark is paralyzed by his fear, and Fern had a similar experience the first time she fought a monster, and Frieren didn't help her. But she's like, all right, I have to feel the fear and do it anyway, so she resolved herself, killed the monster, and she's like, okay, now I'm able to fight monsters. I don't want to fight a dragon, but it's like, I had to face my fear, and now I can handle those situations. You kind of need to do something similar. So, and then Stark also tells this story about the last time he and Eisen met each other. Eisen hit him, didn't say anything, and left, and that's how they parted. And he's like, my master, he didn't even say anything, but I knew he was disappointed in me. I knew he thought that I was pathetic, so I don't really know what the fuck I'm doing. But the next day, he does show up, goes to fight the dragon, and he solos it. And it's beautiful to watch. Like, it's so visual. Like, it's so smooth. It's so good. Like, it was fantastic to watch. But he's fighting the dragon, and Frieren is telling this story to Fern. She's like, okay, so I talked to Eisen. You know, it's like when we were talking to Eisen, like before we got here, he told me about him hitting Stark. And how Eisen had similar issues. He was someone who was always afraid when he would fight monsters. Like, he would start shaking. But his fear is what motivated him. For him, being afraid was a good thing. And he told me the reason that he hit Stark was because he was afraid of him. Because Stark is that fucking strong. And Eisen's body just reacted on his own. And he feels ashamed of the fact that, like, he felt that way about his own student. But it was also kind of if I'm scared of him, then I have nothing left to teach him. He's going to be fine. So after Stark fighting the dragon, he's like, hey, are you going to finish it off? Listen, you old hag. And then Frieren's like, old hag. I don't like that. And Fern's like, oh, she's going to get revenge on him for that later. I don't know what she's going to do, but she didn't like that at all. She's like, I don't have to do anything. It's already dead. Oh shit, I killed the dragon. So then they loot the nest, and I don't think I've ever seen Frieren this happy across those first 5 episodes. Like, she's smiling, she's fucking skipping toward the nest, and it's like, this is just a child at this point, and it was really adorable. And then Fern, and that's one of the things I like about the relationship. It's like, Frieren is Fern's mama, but Fern is also the mama of the relationship. She's like, hey, we can't take everything. Only take, like, 3 things. But they loot. Stark joins the party. They go to the next town, and there's a checkpoint. And they say that, Fern overhears that it might be about 2 years before the checkpoint is lifted. So she's like, Stark, Do you want to stay here for 2 years? No. And Stark gives his thing that, like, like, I know how much, oh, my throat's kind of dry, how much my master's journey meant to him. And I want to go on my journey and get back to him and tell him about all the things that I saw. So, like, I want to have that moment where I can connect with him about similar journeys, but also be like, dude, you told me all these cool stories. I want to tell you all these cool stories. This is how much all these places have changed in like 90 years. I can't stay here forever. So they go to the merchants, they go to the Thieves Guild, they go to all these kinds of places to figure out how can we get past the checkpoint. And as I was watching it, I was just kind of thinking to myself, I mean, you are traveling with like the 4 great heroes. Couldn't you just like name drop her? Now, granted, the guard captain was like kind of rude, being like, hey, no one's passing, but there was no indication that he recognized her. I was kind of thinking, I was like, if he does recognize her, he's being maybe a little rude. And then at the end of the episode, it's, yeah, he didn't realize who she was. The like mayor of the city or whatever he was. It was like, hey, sorry he was a bit rude. We know who you are. You're free to pass. And they're like, oh, all we had to do was name drop our famous companion. We should have just done that in the first place. While Frieren's like, I wanted to just stay here and research for 2 years. Which I love, because there's another like line like that where Frieren is asking Stark, like, why are you so willing to, help these people with the dragon? It's because I've lived here 3 years. That's it. Like, that's no time at all. Fuck you mean that's no time at all? Like, I just really like those moments where you are kind of reminded, like, yeah, she's 1,000 years old. 3 years to her is nothing. But to a human being, that is a lot. I really like that shit. So, these 2 episodes, really good. I'm still enjoying it. I feel like I've said this about a few different shows. So it's like, when I'm done with it, I'll probably start reading the manga. Probably not till next year. I had said it like around this time in 2022 that like my goal for next year is to read One Piece, and I still haven't fucking picked up One Piece. Whoops. That might end up being delayed till 2024. But I've been enjoying this a lot, and if you've been watching it, I hope you've been enjoying it too.